Greetings, science fiction and fantasy enthusiasts, and welcome to our podcast. With Ryan Sean O'Reilly, David Wilkinson, and Richard Mell. You're listening to No Deodorant in Outer Space. Now, let's get started.
In moments they would be here, the one Kirchner had called the Cenobites, theologians of the Order of the Gash, summoned from their experiments and the higher reaches of pleasure to bring their ageless heads into a world of rain and failure. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of No Deodorant in Outer Space. My name is Ryan Sean O'Reilly, and joining me on this adventure, once more, is Richard Mell.
Hello, I'm Richard Edward Mell.
All right. And joining, like as usual, David Wilkinson.
What's up, party people?
And as a special guest on this episode, Dave has someone joining him, his wife, Laura.
Yep, the lady that gave me my green card, Laura Valley, my wife and best friend. How you doing?
Everyone. Hi.
Laura, how are you tonight?
I'm great. I'm excited to be here.
Excellent. Just so the audience can get to know you a little bit, what's your interest in science fiction, fantasy, horror? Like, is there like any works that particularly inspired you, or that you really liked, or anything?
Me?
Yeah.
You.
Is this directed at me?
That's directed at you.
Yeah. Horror is my, science fiction. No offense, guys, but it's a little nerdy for me.
Whoa.
The horror realm is where my interests are.
Any particular
any work that's inspiring to me that got me into
the genre?
Oh my God, I don't know. I think Hellraiser actually was one of the first horror movies I saw, and I think I saw part of it on TV. And then I read a lot of Stephen King in elementary school.
Okay, cool. All right. Oh, and we do have one more guest on this episode. We're jam-packed.
Hello.
So bringing back to the demanding public the return of one James Adam Rauch.
Hello. I'm back. I'm back. Finally, after all these years. You dragged me back in.
No, any of our audience members who joined us recently, if they go back and listen to our early episodes, I think maybe the first 3 episodes, Beam was actually one of the co-hosts.
I made it through 3 before I quit and never looked back until today.
So, I mean, I'm sure the audience is dying to know, why did you quit the podcast so early on in its infancy?
Be honest and take as much time as you can.
Well, not well, it depends on what he says.
Well, it occurred to me at some point that you were insane.
Oh, you're talking to me?
Yes. You, Ryan O'Reilly, are insane.
There's a common thread here.
You're obsessed over this podcast, and it drove me away.
My love of the podcast drove you away?
It did. Your smothering love. All the text messages.
Would you say he was like Lenny from Mice and Men and you were a rabbit and you hopped away before he could crush you?
I'd say it was more like Sling Blade. I kind of wanted to kill him because I felt he was like raping someone important to me. Like my sanity.
Raping your sanity. Holy shit.
Wow.
But he's a gentle giant with a heart of gold. Yeah. Any damage he does is unintentional, right? We all agree on that?
Yeah. Yeah. The little hyperactivity thrown in.
Well, that was almost, I think, like 3 years ago when you left the show.
Was it that long?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Feels like yesterday.
Yeah.
You guys been doing this for 3 years?
It's our third
3 years.
season.
It's our
I think it's about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I can't keep track.
We're getting towards
Time
the
flies.
What were the final words between you and Ryan, like when you decided to storm out, or did you storm? In what fashion did you do it? And,
I'm
like,
pretty
what was
sure
the
I just said,
moment?
I'm done. I'm done. I'm done.
Okay.
And now,
I have a small
Simple
child.
enough. Yeah.
Stop calling me.
Right.
Why are you in my driveway?
There were court
my
orders
wife
involved.
is really
Come in.
angry about the way this is going at night.
I'm trying to make an exodus as well after this season, so I'm just
You
taking
just
notes
gotta
here.
cut it clean.
Yeah, cut it clean.
Never look back.
I don't know
You
anything.
Throw
else.
the
really
match
have to do
behind
good.
you and let it
Jesus
burn.
Christ.
Yeah.
So, Beam, we particularly asked you to come back on this episode because you have told me in the past that you're a big Clive Barker fan. And of course, this episode, we're going to be covering Clive Barker's The Hellbound Heart, which came out in 1986, and then we'll later in the second half of the episode be talking about Hellraiser that came out in 1987. The book was actually a novella, was written by Clive Barker, and Clive Barker actually directed the movie as well. But Beam, do you consider yourself a big fan of Clive Barker?
I'm a huge fan. I got into him in the 90s, like early 90s in high school, when he was writing Weave World and Imagica. Those were the Weave World specifically was the first book of his that I read. And
no, that's fantasy, right?
Yeah, that was fantasy. And then I kind of went backwards and realized he was more known almost for Hellraiser and the Hellbound Heart. And his popularity kind of never took off. I mean, I think at the time everyone thought he was going to be the next huge thing, and he's very artistic, and he just wasn't interested in maintaining that popularity.
I've got an outsider's perspective, and like I knew Clive Barker was a thing, and I never read any of this stuff. I never saw any of the movies. I knew he was, Yeah,
well, let me stop you there, Rook. We can get into that shortly. But was this the author you were telling me a story? Would you go into the library to read his books, or was that Stephen King?
That was Stephen King, and then I got into Clive Barker around the same time.
Okay, excellent. Well, then I just want to welcome you back. I'm so glad that you forgave me enough to come back to the podcast, and looking forward to having you on this evening. And it is evening here for us. We're actually recording under a canopy of trees, so you might hear some insects and stuff in the background, and we're surrounded by tiki torches, which is a pretty great setting to record this.
It seems ritualistic right now.
It does.
Surreal.
Such a great setting. It only took 2.5 hours to get it set up.
Never mind that. That'll be wiped away with the magic of podcasting. So, why don't we just go around the horn and give our opening, just one-sentence comments, or opening salvos, just to give your one-sentence summary of what you think of this book. We'll start with Wilk. Your opening remark.
A one-sentence summary of what I think about this book. A cautious morality tale that explores the depths of depravity and mercy.
All right. Sounds good. Rick, let's go to you next.
Yeah, a religious experience for the entire family.
Okay. And Beam, we'll go to you. Just any kind of one-sentence summary of your thoughts overall on this book.
I would say that it was a work by a genius that was trying to find his niche, so to speak. He was looking for his path, and he tried horror first, and you can see it in some of the artistic elements of the story, but it wasn't meant to be. He never really stuck with it.
Okay. And Laura, any opening comment from you? Just like a quick one sentence.
Wow, I can't be as eloquent as you guys. A one sentence thought about it?
Yeah.
It's always creeped the hell out of me, the idea of there being a room, and I have had nightmares about finding a room in the house that I didn't know was there, and that always the fact that all the action takes place, or a lot of it, in that one room has always just given me the creeps.
Yeah, definitely. And for myself, I guess I'll say this was a fast-paced thrill ride with just the right amount of depravity along the way. So, with that, we are going to get into the author, Clive Barker himself. And Rick, I believe you, over there chuckling in the corner under the scary torchlight, is going to be telling us about Mr. Barker.
Yeah, I'm chuckling because I've got another third party here, with me, and just kind of like an objective observer here in Beam, and him and I just exchanging glances as Ryan talks.
If it makes you better, I'm laughing too, but I can't see it.
Good,
and I'm crying on the inside.
Physically,
the sad clown.
I
smile painted on.
I normally don't see it well, so anyway. Okay, Clive Barker was born in Liverpool. His father was like an engineer, working class, mother homemaker, I guess. What else? I don't have my notes with me, but anyway,
Why wouldn't you have your notes with you?
He was a student when he was a student in high school.
You can open up the Google Doc right on your phone if you need to.
Yeah, I don't have my phone. Oh wait, I do.
It's right in your hand.
Anyway, when he was in high school, his teachers really kind of saw something special in the way that he conducted himself. He was very intense in his work, especially in the arts. And what he started to do when he was extremely young was just draw. And he would draw some pretty disturbing things. And he was extremely professional about keeping it secret. He would only show certain people. And when you're drawing stuff like, the stuff that kind of come out of Clive's head, that's the kind of stuff that you would want to keep secret when you're that age, even from your own folks. You got to kind of like have a mentor that kind of understands art and all of that. And so he managed his work in that it was kind of like all in his own world. I don't think he really was influenced by the people in his immediate surroundings. He was influenced by books. Some of his influences were shit.
Was it Ramsey Campbell? Was one I've heard him talk about. Stephen King.
Edgar Allan Poe.
Stephen King. He loved Moby Dick too.
Oh yeah, I heard him say that.
So he, Moby Dick is a very metaphorical book, and I can see how that influences him. I can see how Stephen King influences horror. But anyway, he.
Wait, are you sure? I always thought Moby Dick was very literal. What's the metaphor?
Oh, there's tons of metaphor in Moby Dick.
Are you sure?
Well, fuck you.
I second that motion.
Just real quick, just about him being in high school. He's an open homosexual right now. Nothing wrong with that. I just wonder if he was open. I mean, he's in his late 60s right now, so he's probably not open in high school about that, which probably may have caused any number of influences on his work.
It did.
Duality, that sort of thing. But I'm always a little bit curious to know if guys that are openly gay got a lot of action in high school, because God knows I didn't. It always kind of pisses me off a little bit when someone who's gay.
Yeah, I think he alluded to that. He mentioned that he was overweight in school, and as he was going on, he didn't have a regular job. I'm sure he had a hard time attracting members of the opposite sex. He was on the dole, quote unquote, until he was 31 years old. He couldn't really support a family. So
the dole is that's like welfare over there.
Welfare, correct. And
not to be confused with our sound engineer and good friend John Dole,
who helped donate equipment for this evening's recording.
But
thanks, John.
Dole is an attractive man, so maybe Clive Barker would be on Dole given the opportunity if Dole was so inclined. Which
possibly,
he's
not. But he did mention that when he walked into Psycho. Okay, it was a double feature, Psycho and then War of the Worlds. He caught the last part of Psycho, and it was the shower scene, of course. And then it was when Norman was like dressed up as a transvestite or something like that, a woman.
He's dressed up as his mother?
I think so.
Mother-in-law.
Okay.
So he saw the most intense parts of that entire movie. And then
you guys gotta know Psycho. It's like a staple.
It is like he walks in, he's like 12 years old. And those types of scenes have an impact.
Yeah, I heard him saying like he was fascinated like seeing people's reaction, like freaking out to the movie. And he's like, I want to do that.
Yeah. Laura called him a pussy. I second that.
No, he was fascinated with the movie.
Okay, good. It wasn't like some negative impact, I hope. So.
Well, Rick, another thing that you were pointing out the other day about Clive's early life, he watched didn't he witness the death of a skydiver?
Yeah, that was another thing that impacted his life. He witnessed, his last name was Valentine. He was a French skydiver, and he just fell to his death right in front of his whole family.
I looked up at that guy. He wasn't just like a run-of-the-mill skydiver. He was actually like building wings, like Icarus wings, and trying to like fly.
Oh, you looked him up.
Yeah, and like he claimed he had success with this one wing design. Then he improved it.
Wings,
and
so you have a young Clive Barker watching Angel, basically plummet to its death.
Yeah.
And he's like,
oh my
I don't
God,
believe in God anymore.
You know what's crazy? I just realized now, Clive Barker made a movie for Showtime's Masters of Horror called Cigarette Burns.
Oh, he was the one who did that.
And the whole premise of that movie,
my God.
It was a snuff film about an angel. And whoever watched, basically they murdered an angel on film, and whoever watched it would basically be dragged into hell. But yeah, that's interesting. I didn't realize he was wearing. Oh yeah, he had angel wings on.
I think we could safely say that Clive Barker has some issues.
Yes,
well, he did allude to that scene in one of his stories. I think in the blood stories, it's Stories of Blood.
Now, is the Books of Blood? Is that what he's most known for? I
don't know. I
think those.
It was a strong
those were
showing.
Short stories that he wrote early on.
Beam, go ahead.
Sort of those were the short stories that he wrote early on that got his start. Got him
attention. You were wrong.
I was wrong. It's John Carpenter.
But he did do a Masters of Horror. Yeah. Which one was it?
Anyway,
what else you got, Rick?
Okay, so Clive Barker, he really broke out when Stephen King read his Books of Blood and remarked that I have seen the future of horror, and his name is Clive Barker. That's when it all happened.
Because
Clive.
they turned that into a book blurb on his books, so it's like an endorsement from King.
Well, huge, yeah. I mean, and King's got like a fucking army of readers, and they all kind of checked him out. So that's when Clive, started making money, got off the dole. He eventually moved to L.A. He's got 3 houses out there. As last time I checked, they were describing, one of his houses is used for all of his paint work when he was painting. I don't know if he still is. Another house, he's living with his partner. And then the third house, I think his partner uses for his photography. And his partner actually photographs like male models usually. They all have kind of like a femininity to them. But and in some cases it's pretty erotic. But that's what his partner does. And Clyde's
more power to him.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, Rick. Quick correction. I was incorrect. John Carpenter did Cigarette Burns. Clive Barker did Valerie on the Stairs from Masters of Horror. So I got excited there. And also, the art that you mentioned, Clive Barker sells art on his website, original art, for as little as $350. So you can buy a Clive Barker original and hang it in your house.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
And then have horrible nightmares because they're all terrifying.
They're pretty terrifying.
They're creepy, yeah.
Speaking of the artwork, Rick, that was another thing you brought up the other day in our pre-production meeting. You talked about Clive Barker had a deal with Disney.
Yeah. So Clive Barker, I don't know what he did in his career that drew Disney toward him.
I can tell you.
To ask him about
the paintings.
The paintings?
He was creating all these paintings that we're talking about,
right.
And apparently he started telling people about it, and he's like, I think there's a story behind this. He started inviting executives and other people who came to his house to see the paintings.
So it was the paintings of the 24 islands?
Yeah, he just started painting all kinds of stuff, yeah.
So that was Aberrad, okay, and it was his... I can't see him conceiving this thing on his own. I can see Disney approaching him and asking him, we need to counter the whole Harry Potter industry. We need to get a piece of that. And they went to Clive Barker after I guess they witnessed some of his exhibits, and he felt like he was up for the task. And the thing was, Disney threw it in like a lot of designers. They put in a lot of resources. They ended up spending about $12 million just to kind of ramp this thing up. And
they were going to do a theme park,
right?
They were going to do films. They were like going to go all in with this project.
All in. It was going to rival Star Wars. It was going to rival freaking like the best mythical epic multi-story thing out there. And it ended up falling flat on its face just because of the complexity, I think, of what Clive Barker was going to deliver. It was just not... I don't think it provided any instant gratification for the average consumer. Okay, Clive Barker is very high-minded, and all of this stuff, I mean, there is so much that goes into his work. A lot of metaphor, a lot of meaning. He knows a lot about mythology, and it's just not... doesn't seem palatable. And a lot of the paintings that he has are just creepy. It's not Disney, so it just kind of fell on its face after a while.
They decided not to.
And what started it was that he couldn't keep up with the corporate schedule. Like he finished his first book, Aberrat, and then they wanted him to complete the second book in a certain period of time, and there was creative differences and all. The whole thing they went through, and that kind of blew up. But it was interesting that Disney had pursued that. It would have been kind of like, it relates a lot to, the attempt to remake Dune by Jodorowsky or Jodorowsky. But it was going to be like a high budget film that kind of really complemented the book.
Let's just back off a little bit here. I mean,
sure.
It was an option. Disney bought an option on his. That happens all the time. They didn't make the movie.
They went through the whole commissioning process.
But it was more than just an option.
They threw millions of dollars at it.
It really wasn't, because that's all that happened. They bought the option, but they didn't do anything with it.
Yeah, they didn't do anything, but it
wasn't more than an option. That's what an option is. I mean, they had the right to develop it, but they chose not to. But he still got a check for it.
Right.
But it means he couldn't sell to anybody else for a certain period of time. That's very common, though. I mean, that's.
Yeah. But I think he got Wilk. I think he got like $4 million for it.
Yeah, that's great.
Which is not common. But okay, so
options are common.
No, the amount of money that he got, $4 million for an option.
Okay,
yeah, he's an idea man. Sure.
So
It actually isn't that uncommon, though, for a renowned writer like that, though. I mean, that's not that unusual.
but I think.
I mean, Kevin Smith got $2.5 million worth of script about Superman that never got published.
But this wasn't just for films though. They were going to do a theme park
just to write a script.
No, but they were going to do
Clive Barker wrote 3 novels. I mean, but like, and to basically get the whole rights to a franchise, $4 million isn't that huge. I mean, if it was you or me, yeah, that'd be huge. But this is an established guy that already did business with Disney.
You wouldn't have wanted more.
It's not like they made a movie and didn't release it or anything like that.
I mean, it's just an example of something that could have happened. It didn't, and if it did happen, it would have been like epic, and everyone would know about it. But it just didn't happen.
But Disney bought a lot of other movies too. Like we did John Carpenter. That was a huge bomb. They recently bombed.
No, not John Carpenter. John Carter of Mars.
They made a lot of these huge movies that went nowhere. I mean,
Jupiter Ascending.
Maybe it's better they didn't do this. They have not had a lot of success with these novel adaptations.
They didn't have success, but they were good movies. And if you want to revisit them and check it out,
was John Carter that good?
I fell asleep, but it was a huge production. And if I was another age, I would love it.
Of money, and
I was full of testosterone.
Yeah, I think that was that might have been one of the reasons why they decided not to go ahead with Abarat, because I think that might have been around the same time period.
It was after that, dude.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, like
John Carter was after the Abarat deal.
John Carpenter was like mid 2000s.
Not John Carpenter. That's a director. John Carter of Mars.
John Carter, whatever. Yeah.
Anyway,
I think he has some health issues. He's had some health issues, right?
Yeah, I was just going to move on to that. Like, he's a huge cigar smoker, and the guy became popular earlier in his life. He was like 32. He was giving interviews, and now he's giving interviews when he's like 52 years old. So
60s, isn't he?
I don't know, but his voice is so raspy. It's like a combination of Wolfman Jack, and this is a quote from another article that I wrote, and
that you wrote.
No, and Tom Waits, and I got to mention Tom Waits because Wilk fucking loves Tom Waits, but
he's big in Japan.
Oh, he is.
Like Tom Waits, and he's big in Japan.
But there's a huge difference in this guy. He's really buff, but he looks really unhealthy at the same time. But anyway, he's become a lot more vain in his years, in celebrity. Seems he's wearing like a designer shirt. He's got earrings in his earlobes, and he's got this like constant bronze on his skin, and it's just he's a way different man than he was when he was living in Liverpool, right? And he's got throat polyps, and did he find out he had like cancer or something like that? I don't know.
Well, I don't know about throat. I think I saw that he had throat polyps. But the other thing that I saw is he had a near-death experience.
Okay.
In somewhat recently, where he went to the dentist and ended up getting toxic shock syndrome. He came home and collapsed. He was in like a coma. Came out of it for 3 days, and essentially he lost like 30 days of his life. And the doctors thought he was going to die. Yeah. And I think after that, like you were talking about, you don't know if he uses all 3 houses anymore. I heard an interview where. He was too weak to go to his main house and set things up for him to write. And
it's God's wrath, isn't it, for writing, Hellbound Heart and all of his horror stories.
Yeah, he's definitely a troubled guy.
Okay, I think that's enough about Clive Barker. So why don't we move into the book, The Hellbound Heart, like I said, which came out in 1986. Wilk, you were going to give us a quick synopsis, making sure to name the main characters, of course. Why don't you give us a quick synopsis about the book, and then we can start talking about the actual book.
Okay, the main character, his name is Johnny Rotten. And
what? No!
Oh, my.
Check your Google Notes. I wrote him out for you.
Let's see. The main character is named Frank Cotton. He's a very deviant, pleasure seeker type person. And in the book, not the movie, he makes a conscious decision to go into another realm by unlocking a box. And he's given a choice to back or not, to do it or not do it, and chooses to go into this realm where he is subjected to such extreme of pain and pleasure, he dies. He then later escapes from that realm through the magic mixture of semen and blood. We all know it. We all love it. It's a cure-all. And he then has to recruit his sister-in-law, who's mildly obsessed with him because they banged a few years ago, to bring people back from the bar
when she was engaged, right?
So he can consume their flesh and become human again.
On her wedding night.
And that's the book.
All right. Beam.
Yes.
I'm going to go to you. We haven't heard from you in a while. One of my impressions of this book is, even though it's very graphic and all this, I feel like it's a morality tale.
It is totally a morality tale.
Give us your thoughts on that.
Well, growing up Catholic and gay, I think drove Clive Barker to this idea that, there was... I think it gave him sort of a troubled view on religion. Like, he wanted to be a good person, and he wanted to go to heaven when he died, but he was just set up to fail, so to speak. And it drove this story in a lot of ways. The amazing thing about the Hellbound Heart to me is when you look at the time frame that it came out, the horror movies that were coming out, like Friday the 13th and Freddy Krueger and Chucky, they were all sort of like slasher movies where teenage girls were getting, killed in the forest, and then he all of a sudden came along with this story where in a lot of ways the people are the monsters. I mean, the Cenobites, when you think about it, they're just being called there and doing what they do.
Well, and Beam, I agree with you. I think in the book especially, the Cenobites don't strike me as evil at all. They're their own entity, and it's the kind of thing where you have to open the door. They don't do anything against someoone's will. And
to join the cult.
It's like a great white shark.
Well, it's almost like they just do what they do, and they don't see it as good or evil. It's just like
a shark, yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
Laura, let's go to you, Laura. The
humans are worse. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, the humans are worse, and I disagree that Frank was the main character, but that's an aside.
Fair enough.
Well, the point of views do change, I think, to three different people. But Laura, I got a question for you. The Cenobites, Wilk was saying they're not good or evil, but one of the characters, Kirsty, she opens the portal to hell, and they are going to actually torture her.
Right.
And
they don't give her a choice.
She's like innocent.
They what?
They don't give her a choice.
Right.
At the end they
No,
do.
they don't.
No, they don't.
They're pretty vicious.
They just decide not to, but they're like,
They're not like
you opened
benign
it by
gods.
accident, but you still have to.
He just says,
drag
you
you to
called
hell.
us and we came.
Yes, in the book. Yes, they did.
Yeah, but she doesn't go to hell.
Because she made that deal with them.
Right.
Yeah.
But they just decided.
Oh, yeah, I suppose
anyway,
you're right.
Yeah.
I suppose you're right, yes.
If she
Isn't
hadn't
that
made the
kind of
deal, they
malicious?
would have dragged her against her.
But they gave
her
Frank
will.
the choice. That's the
But
confusing part, though.
she called them. That was the whole.
Yeah, that was
the whole thing.
a little inconsistent.
Okay, maybe I glossed over that because at the end I felt like they kind of honored their deal with her, though.
Yes, but why did she have to make a deal with them in the first place?
Right. If she hadn't had that deal to make,
you guys
they would
are
have
right.
taken her.
I'm No, you know what? You're absolutely right. I'm just contrasting with the movie where they did not honor their deal with her, which we'll get into the movie part.
Right.
So forgive me, but I mean, I did feel like they had some sense of honor amongst them, more so in the book, but not.
It's almost more
that
like
much.
they were just animal, or like sharks or something. That's just what they did.
Yeah.
That's how I saw it.
Sure.
But okay.
Rick, what's your take on the Cenobites? Did you feel like they had any malicious intentions, or they're just like
Well, yeah,
like
I did.
Laura was just saying, like they're just like animals, they're just like sharks?
No, yeah, they had malicious intentions. I mean, they're bringing the wrath on some human being. I don't consider some Cenobites humans. I don't consider them like neutral in their own entity either. I see them as doing the service of either God or the devil, which is a part of God, I would imagine. But they're in the service to show people kind of like how far they've gone. They've gone too far. They demonstrate that for people. Okay, this guy had gone too far. Okay, he kind of submitted to his animal instincts, and he had so much in his life as far as frivolous sex and relationships with many women. He always wanted more, and he got to the point where he was just so kind of so ambitious with this. He was empty, and they just kind of demonstrated that by completely devouring his soul and his physical body. It was kind of, they're kind of like vigilantes almost.
So you feel like
moral vigilantes.
You feel like this is like a morality tale, like they're there to punish people.
Real quick, do you guys know the origin of the word Cenobite?
No.
Yes. Wait, no. Well, it has to do with like part of a religious order.
Exactly. It means that you'd be a member of a religious order living in a convent or community. I mean, it implies there's some sort of code, some sort of religious code, some sort of operating system. I mean, I really do think the Cenobites had a code. And that's where I'm kind of struggling right now, because I feel like by the nature of the box, and at the end of the book, they make Christy the gatekeeper, so to speak. But I almost feel like they think that if you open that door, then you're opening it for a reason, kind of that sort of thing. But I mean, they don't
Right.
arbitrarily go after people.
But they were going to arbitrarily go after Kirsty.
I agree.
They totally
You
were.
know, it's like
well,
you want to say like it was a morality tale. Like Frank was this terrible guy, and that's why they were going to torture him and rip him apart. But then. No, it came down to whoever opened the box. It wasn't like to punish a sin. It was just whoever opened the box.
And Ryan,
the Cenobites had their handlers.
You're right, but I almost think that the way the book ended, the mere opening of the door means that you're an immoral person. That's how they.
But what was immoral about Kirsty?
I think they assumed that she was doing something devious when
I
she
don't
opened
think they did. I think they were just like, you opened the box. It was a mistake. They even said, oh, did you open it by accident? And she was like, yes. And they were like, well, it's happened before, but we can't do anything about it.
But you could say that she had bad leanings because she was coveting Frank. Or not Frank. She was coveting the brother.
In the book, because in the book she's
it's kind of a sin,
a well-wisher.
Sort of.
Yeah, she wants to be with the guy who's married.
And so, good point, Ryan. So her sin was if she wasn't into Frank, who was married.
No,
I mean,
Rory.
Not Frank.
Rory, who has
the
a
other
different
guy.
name in the movie. So
Rory.
Yes.
Yeah, Rory, who's
we
Larry in the movie.
last night. I finished the book on Tuesday, so forgive me. I'm
sorry.
playing
I finished
catch up
it
here.
today.
I
That's
know.
why it's all fresh in my mind.
God damn you, woman. But yeah,
it's interesting. But let me switch topics a little bit. I feel like Clive Barker is synonymous with being very graphic. Beam, let's go to you. I mean, when I read this book, I did think there's graphic parts of it, but I kind of felt like Clive Barker just hit just the right notes where, yeah, it might be unsettling to like the more faint of heart, but really it wasn't like overly graphic just for the sake of being overly graphic. I mean, is that your take on him?
I kind of had a different take. I felt like it was over the top. I mean,
really?
Looking at it again, I forgot how gross it is in a lot of ways. The way that they tear people apart with hooks, and there's a lot of BDSM, background in there, and a lot of the London punk scene, with they used to stick pins through their faces, and growing up in Liverpool, I'm sure he saw a lot of that. But I think he took it way farther than I remember him taking it when I read it originally back in the 90s.
Okay, yeah, really. What about Wilk? What about you and Laura?
I thought it was. Yeah, I didn't think it was as graphic as some of the other Clive Barker.
We've read some things recently that were almost pornographic in terms of the violence.
I mean, it is graphic and horrible, but his description could have been even worse. I mean, I don't know. It's a really creepy concept.
I think visceral.
Ripping people apart with hooks is graphic. It is.
But visceral is a great word. I think his choice of words that he uses, the thing.
He always talks about smells.
Smells are big. He invokes a certain imagery, but yeah, I don't think it's over the top. I mean, really, I don't know. It didn't seem gratuitous.
Well, he alludes to a lot of stuff, and then he doesn't go into a whole lot of detail. So it's kind of left to your imagination.
He doesn't go into the detail that the movie goes into.
I thought.
The movie goes into more detail than he does in his book.
Definitely.
Okay, so what about the pacing of this? I like I said in my opening comments, I felt like this book moves very fast. Rick, how did you feel like it? I mean, I read this book in one day. I mean, it's a novella.
Yeah, it's quick. He like you guys say, his writing is sparse. He touches on a lot of points with very few words. Master of vocabulary. He's a master of vocabulary. But I think, he progresses the story, kind of like in leaps and bounds. So I don't really have much to say.
Well, Laura, did you say you just finished the book today? Did you read it in one day?
I did. I finished it today. I don't think I'd ever read it before. I mean, I've seen the movie a million times, but
I mean, it's a quick read, wouldn't you say?
It was really quick.
Yeah.
But I think it was good that it was quick.
Yeah. I mean, it's a short length, but it's a fast read. Just the writing is not dense.
It's concise though, and that's really what makes him one of the better authors.
And efficient. I think it's efficient.
One of the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's efficient. It's not unlike Stephen King, who endorsed him, who is very verbose and very weighty.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think one big difference is one problem with Clive Barker is he doesn't build up his characters so much. You know how Stephen King will build this whole world that seems really real, and he gets way into the characters before anything horrible happens. But Clive Barker is just jumped right in with horrible things happening to people we don't really care about because we don't really know anything about them.
Yeah, more so in the movie too.
Right.
Say, but yeah.
Even in the book, did you really care about any of those characters?
No,
not at all.
No, I just thought it was terrifying.
Yeah.
Did you guys feel like I felt like all the characters had faults? None of them was really. They definitely weren't one dimensional. Although it's interesting because I agree they're not super well developed, but they all kind of have issues. Mm-hmm. Every one of them, even like we said about Kirsty.
Well, and it's like Kirstie had a mild issue. I feel like Rory's
Yeah.
issue was he's in the wrong place at the wrong time
Well,
with
he
the
was-
wrong woman and the wrong
yes,
brother.
that's it, the wrong woman.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
he
like,
was in love with Julia because she was so beautiful, but she was horrible, and he didn't really see that or care.
Yeah.
I guess.
So, like, was it his issue that he was just too surface level? Like, he just cared about looks, and he wasn't really,
right.
caring about, like, forming a real relationship with her. Like, was she? Do you think she was kind of like a trophy wife to him?
That's what it seemed like.
What do you think,
yeah,
Ryan?
not a lot of love in that marriage. I mean, she
I mean, she did fuck his
financial
brother
security.
right before their wedding, so
Yeah, and she wanted financial security. That was her whole thing.
Right.
Yeah, he wasn't so
So-
innocent. Yeah, he had his vice. He was pretty vain. He was pretty vain.
Well, we've covered a lot of stuff here already. I mean, it's a short work. What did you guys think of the device, the puzzle box? I mean, I thought it was pretty cool, kind of unique, and has this gateway into hell.
He uses it in other stories too. I did a little research. And
He does?
It's based upon actual devices that do exist. These were toys that were made in the 17th century, and you can buy replicas of them online. And I guess they're featured prominently in other works by Clive Barker. So it kind of goes through his works.
He got one as a gift as a child from his uncle. He bought it and brought it from China and gave it to him.
Really? I didn't know that.
It was
Wow.
like a Chinese puzzle box, and I think that's where the idea spawned from.
Oh, changed his whole life.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
I didn't know about those things.
It was a cool device. I mean, I think one of his goals was to come up with horror characters that were original, and he did, I think, accomplish that with the Cenobites.
Well, I think he was going for an artistic avenue too. I mean,
What do you mean?
You look at all the black leather that they wear in the hooks. Everything's symmetrical. When you look at Pinhead, and I mean, they were almost They were beautiful monsters.
The
essentially. That's what
slothy
he was
monster
going
was
for.
not symmetrical.
Oh, the glutton. What do they call him? Butterball, I think. Is his name.
No shit.
Yeah, he was not. But the girl with like the weird cut in her neck, and all that stuff. It was.
That was the movie, though.
like
No,
the
that's
teeth
true.
chattering guy.
The Chatterer.
He was the best.
Yeah.
He's the creepiest.
Is he the engineer?
No.
No.
There was no engineer in the movie that I could tell.
I always feel like Pinhead would be the engineer, though. Don't you think?
No, in the book, the engineer is like separate. He's like described as a glowing light.
Right. They don't really see him.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's creepy.
It is like it's almost like there is a higher order, like Wilk was saying. They're in this other plane of existence. They're part of this
they're
religious order where they call themselves like explorers of, like, I guess, pain and
Right.
pleasure. And
Well, and again, there is some thought out there too, based upon the nature of the puzzle box, that they're not actually going into hell, but a parallel dimension, an alternate world. Not necessarily a spiritual hell, but this is just a different plane.
Yeah, I can
it's
see
just-
that.
It's really creepy.
I can
Even
see
yeah,
creepier.
does he ever actually? He never says that they're going to hell in the book, right?
Not in the book or the movie. I mean, that I can tell, that I can recall.
Yeah, it's like you almost, and I think there's been comic books and stuff, and I think maybe some of the other movies might get into the hell aspect of it more.
I feel like if he's not friends, he should hang out with Neil Gaiman. These guys have a very similar pattern of work, where they're prolific across many mediums.
They know each
But
other.
They've both delved into comics, for sure.
Yeah, I think they've held hands before. Speaking of holding hands with another man, should we talk about like how Clive Barker's gayness has seeped its way into the movie? Or
I
the
would
book,
love-
I mean,
I
Oh
would
yeah,
the movie.
Rick, we can get into the
Not
movie
the-
when
the
we
book.
talk about the movie episode.
The book. The book.
Oh, well, what do you mean?
Well, the Cenobites were like neither man nor woman, okay?
That's so gay.
Well, it's transsexual.
Is it?
They're trans.
sounds
Transvestite.
asexual.
I think they're
Yeah,
just
it's-
like
It's
genderless.
they're
Or
genderless, but they're like
pansexual.
between man and woman. Okay.
Well, but they weren't.
The-
but they were.
The Greek
they
god,
weren't-
the
okay,
Greek,
whatever. Yeah.
the Greek god Dionysus. He was a male, obviously, but he had feminine qualities. Okay, and he was the god of
Orgies?
ambitious orgies, and bacchanal, and all of that.
Hey,
But
okay.
Clive was very familiar with that. And
Yeah, he used that in other books
Beam
too.
or Weaveworld, were the Cenobites featured in Weaveworld, Beam?
No, they weren't, but
that's
they
good,
had.
Will,
There
thanks.
was another pansexual character. I don't know if that's what you want to call it. I think his name was Pi Opa, and he was sort of the main character's sidekick, so to speak. And he didn't have a gender. It was very similar, actually. I think his homosexuality.
Were there characters called the Surgeons in Weaveworld?
I don't remember.
Wilk, I think you're right. I think he does have characters that are similar that he calls the surgeons, and maybe he doesn't quite go into the detail of what they are. But I think I read something like that.
It definitely drove a lot of his writing. I think he came out early. He came out in the 90s when it wasn't necessarily popular to do that. And I want to say he did it by putting in his bio on his book that he lived with his partner. And sort of the whole world found out at that time, like, oh, wow, he is actually gay.
I saw a very early interview with him, like when Hellraiser was out, and I feel like they might have asked him about a girlfriend. The question got glossed over, so it seemed to me that maybe he hadn't come out that early.
He might not have, yeah.
Okay, well, I had another note here. Rick, you were talking about this in our pre-production meeting about, I have the note that, does karma always have to get you? Do you feel like this book is like a lesson in karma?
It is way too much. These goddamn Cenobites.
Karma is just the word that dumb people use.
The damn Cenobites, they're just agents for something that's basically making all of the morals. They're manufacturing morals for people, okay?
Laura, would you disagree with
Karma
that?
doesn't walk through an interdimensional door.
Laura, would you disagree with that?
I don't know. I mean, I think, in a way, it seems like people are getting they've done something wrong and they're getting punished. But in a way, it seems kind of like it's beyond karma, which actually makes it scarier. Because if you kind of that morality in a lot of horror movies, where like the teenagers who are having sex are the ones who get killed first or whatever. I feel like this was a little different. Like, I know Frank was a bad guy; he opened the box, but the fact that girl opened the box. And she, okay, she had a thing for a guy who was married, but she didn't act on it, so
True.
she wasn't really bad.
And Frank never murdered or hurt anyone until he opened the box. And
right.
He was tortured.
I mean, I think it was scarier for the fact that it didn't really seem like karma. It was just kind of random. It was like, oh, you open this box, you open this.
But it wasn't random. It wasn't just a
horrible
box. It was a box that was
people
procured by the handlers of the Cenobites. The Cenobites have the handlers. It originates in the Orient. You go seek this out. You talk your talk and about how you want everything in life. And you eventually get to this point in the Orient, and you pick this box up, okay? That's where it all leads to.
Don't they say when the box is given to someone, like, doesn't one of the quotes, that it was always yours? And doesn't the end of the book end with...
Yeah, that was in the movie.
Oh, okay, that was in the movie. So in the end of the book, though, don't they return the box to Kirsty and, like, almost like they're directing it, like it's got to go to someone else. And it
Right.
is the engineer kind of got his hand in this dimension, directing the box to the next person.
No, it depends on the individual in the world.
So you think
In
it's
this
totally
world.
random, Rick?
It's not random.
It's not
people.
random.
It's people who demand that they have this thing.
hence their demand for her. Yeah, I don't think it is random. I think there is some morality tied to the box in some shape, way, or
Right.
form.
And it ends up in the hands of that Chinese vendor again at the end of the movie.
That's the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
That was so creepy.
Hey guys, are we ready? We should probably wrap this up and segue to the movie because we're really getting into the movie
Yeah.
talk a lot.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
It's getting hard. It's kind of
All right, yeah. So let's just go around the horn and we'll just give our final comments. Any final last comments everyone just can individually say. So we'll go around the horn and I'll go first to Wilk. Any last final? Give your a star rating out of 5 stars. Give your star rating and any last comments you have about the book.
I would give the book 4 stars for a couple of reasons. 4 stars because there's really no reason not to read this book. It's very accessible, it's a quick read, and it's overall enjoyable. But it is a short story, so it has limitations with that. The characters aren't fully developed, but overall it's a pretty chilling tale, one that'll stay with you, and I would it's better than the average writer, so I'd give it 4 stars.
Laura?
Yeah, I don't want to... Yeah, you said it pretty well, Dave.
Hey.
But, yeah, no, I would give it 4 stars, too. And I mean, I thought it was great. I thought it's creepy as hell. I mean, yeah, the characters are not... They don't go into a lot of detail, but it's scary. It's haunting. I don't know. Ugh, it gives me the heebie-jeebies. Yeah, 4 stars is right on.
All right.
Do you need some penicillin?
Penicillin.
Yeah. What? Got that spurt gonorrhea now.
Great.
All right, Rick, let's go to you. How many stars and any final comments you have on the book?
Okay, the book was kind of to me it was a letdown. You know, when I'm in the horror genre, I'm expecting sort of like some unrepentant story that is just evil through and through. And getting through the book, and I felt like I read like one of the chapters out of the fucking Bible. It was a moral story, and I was let fucking down because I was expecting just unrepentant horror, and it wasn't. It was kind of like it was a morality tale, and I didn't dig it.
How many stars? How many stars?
2.
2 stars. Wow. Beam.
Sorry. Just real quick, to Rick's comment, it's funny you mentioned that because Clive Barker said the scariest book ever written was the Bible, and he doesn't consider himself a horror writer.
Well, he believes in the Bible.
And that's which is 2 things he said in an interview on Goodreads, and you kind of hit both those points.
Okay,
Just throwing that
let's
out
go to
there.
Beam.
I'm not Clive Barker.
Beam, how many stars out of 5 would you give the book, and any final comments you want to make?
I would give it 4 stars. I think he was still learning how to write at that time, and he kept it really short, but there's a lot of depth there. I think that when you look at his history as a gay man growing up in the Catholic Church with a really strong belief and just feeling cursed by his homosexuality from the beginning, I think he sort of took that emotion and brought it into this story, and you see it with the characters, the humans being the bad guys, essentially. And the Cenobites, I think, represented the Catholic Church to him. It was this set of rules that didn't necessarily make sense at all, but it brought people to hell and judged them for things indiscriminately just because they existed, just because they opened the box. I think it was... I think it's
Beam for the win.
I love that.
Yeah, there's a
perfect.
lot.
I agree with Beam.
I do too. That was
Beam speaks for me.
Okay, excellent. Triumphant comeback by Beam. I'm going to give this. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. You guys were kind of talking to me to go to 4, and so I'm just going to give it a strong 3.5. But I'm going to say it's a really great book, and it's definitely worth checking out. Like I said, it doesn't quite go as over the top as you think. It's accessible, and it's a great read, and he hits just the right amount of horror, and it's fast. I also agree with like what Laura was saying, that the characters could be better developed, although they are interesting and they do have conflicts. So I'm just going to stick with that.
And hey, quick plug for all our fans out there. I bought Books of Blood this week, the first 3 volumes. I love his short stories. Just check them all out. They're really compelling, and the more I read, the more I like
Did you read Rawhead Rex yet? That was
I am too.
I'm becoming a big fan of
this thing.
Beam, go ahead. What were you saying, Beam?
I was going to ask, did you read the Rawhead Rex story?
Is that in Books of Blood?
It is.
Okay.
It's in the
it is.
I'm on the second one now.
So you guys read his other stories. Are they as moral as this one?
You're hot.
I don't think so.
No?
Not really. He gets more into morality later on.
Does it get more brutal, like Stephen King sometimes does? Like everybody dies at the end. Fuck you.
No,
like,
that's
fuck
the
everything?
weird thing is the protagonist always lives. They always win. It's odd in that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, they live, but I don't know. There's some
They're altered.
They're haunted.
Well, thinking of the girl, the innocent.
It's a pretty good ending.
Ooh, Candyman.
Candyman.
She's
All right, I'm going to invite our
back.
listeners to check out the second half of our episodes next week when we cover the movie Hellraiser, also directed by Clive Barker, interestingly enough. And in the meantime, please visit our website, www.nodeodorant.com. You can subscribe to our podcast on iTunes. We're also on Stitcher. We're on Google Play. We're on TuneIn Radio. We're also now on iHeartRadio. So you can follow us all over any place you can get podcasts. You can pretty much find ours. We also have a YouTube channel if you prefer to get your podcasts that way. Follow our Twitter account. We have a Facebook account. We're all over the interwebs. How fun. So,
unfortunately, most of our hosts are no longer on Facebook for various reasons.
But
You got proxies, shit, man.
So, and with that, I will invite all of us collectively to say good night and farewell. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
See you in hell, you sons of bitches!
So long, Stinktown.
For more information on the topics discussed in this episode, or to read our show notes and find us on social media, visit nodeodorant.com. For more information on Ryan Sean O'Reilly and his various works of fiction, visit ryanseanoreilly.com. For more information on David Wilkinson, visit drycracker.com. For more information on Richard Mell, check out his profile at goodreads.com. The theme music for this podcast was written by John Doyle from the band I Decline. You can visit him at i-decline.com. Voiceover for this podcast was provided by me, Margaret O'Reilly. Well, that concludes our episode. We hope you've learned a lot. Again, thanks for listening to our show. And always, always remember, there is no deodorant in outer space.
Okay, check.
County
check.
jail.
Check.
All of a sudden,
Check.
it comes out of
Check.
nowhere. Fucking shivs your ass.
That's him. He has burned me hard over the years. He's got a sharp wit. Problem was, it took me about 6 months to realize he was just fucking with me the whole time. and I was taking it really seriously. Wow, this guy's fucking insane.
Hey, we're recording, Laura.
You Laura on your own mic or what?
Say
You guys
something.
got two mics over there?
Okay. All right, we're good.
Wow.
Nice.
Yes, as far as you know.
I'll come closer.
No, we have one
Okay.
mic. That's all you're going to get.
So,
I had a horrible stomach ache all of a sudden. Sorry.
tell us about that.
Oh,
Beam.
God. I feel like I'm going to throw up. It's that Yeti.
It's the Yeti.
Rick gave me this beer. Oh, my God.
It's a Yeti beer, which a Yeti is kind of like a Sasquatch. You're a big fan of the Sasquatch.
Yeah.
How did you come to be a big fan of Sasquatch?
I went on a Sasquatch hunt out in California.
That doesn't happen every day.
Dude, that's cool.
It's actually on. There's a TV show on. I want to say
You had your own TV show?
no. It's on
Oh.
History Channel. It's called. It's done by Matt Moneymaker, the Bigfoot enthusiast. And we went out to California to the redwoods and went camping for 9 days. Went up in the mountains and made Sasquatch calls and tried to, because there was a sighting out there.
Did you see Sasquatch?
No, we didn't. I did see a lot of crazy people
I
though.
didn't get that
Oh, yeah.
was part of it.
Yeah.
Wilk, you sound like you
How
want.
did
Is
I
there something you
miss-
want to
okay.
add about the book? Wilk,
What's up?
Oh, the Yeti.
is there something you want to add about the book?
Sorry.
You guys talking about Sasquatch. I mean, I'm just waiting for you to wrap that up.
Oh, okay. Well, I think Beam is like keeled over right now, like gripping his stomach.
Oh,
Jesus.
Sounds
It took-
amazing.
It took me forever to drink that bottle of beer, and it's a 20-ouncer, so
This is one Sasquatch that
Good
Beam
luck.
could not catch.
Wow, this is rough.
At least the Sasquatch exists, right?
I almost just puked in the forest. I'm not gonna lie.
it's thick. It is a thick beer.
Okay, maybe we got to get this guy some water.